also want to ask the actors if we can just go down the line, just a favorite moment from the show, just something that really comes to mind that you either love shooting or something that was great for your character. Corey, you want to start? Anything come to mind?
Well, I can't get too into it because it'd be the biggest spoiler in the world, but I think the last episode and the events of the last episode were, I thought, so well done. I think for people who read the books and know how it ends, and for people who are just coming into the show, I think they did a great job of keeping it true to the spirit of the conclusion of the books without the exact same things happening, and I was really pleased.
David, how about you? Anything come to mind?
Yeah, well, I'll go along with that, but the very last piece of the whole thing, having a new kind of depth structure that we haven't seen before. But if you mean with the show as a whole, I thought the gas station scene early on in the series, because we were all in it. We just met Dutch, and so it was just a great week knowing we were part of a really spectacular scene, and we were out on the street, and people who lived in the street had to be relocated to a hotel because there were so many guns going off and the trucks being blown up, and we were trapped inside the gas station, and there was lots of little dynamics going on, and because we were all in it together, I remember that was a lot of fun.
Kevin, how about you?
It's pretty tough for me to bring it down to one specific scene. I think it's for me the greatest thing is just having the luxury of being able to tell the entire story with such an incredible group of talented and compassionate, generous artists, and to get to give you guys the whole journey. I can't wait for you guys to see the last season. It's pretty exciting. That's kind of a cop-out answer, but that's how I feel. If I was to pick one scene that really stood out to me, it was when the professor and Fett really get down to it and talk about, Fett just says, break it down for me, what do I have to do, what do I have to know? And that to me was kind of like, which was also at the gas station, that was kind of like a magic moment for me because it really set things on a course for Fett and for the bromance. And,
That's great. Ruda, do you have one?
David stole my answer. It was the gas station as well, because it was one of the first first episodes that I did, and we shot the whole thing chronologically as much as we could as well. So it was a little bit more theatrical, and as David said, the little nuances between characters started to form. It was just so lovely spending so much time with those people. And then there's a scene in this final season where a group of us are back together. It's a very emotional scene, and it's kind of it's nice to have those two as favourites, because you have the sort of joy of everyone meeting, and then you have this very emotional scene near the end of the show as well, which is very exciting.
We're going to get to Richard in a second. You guys, we're going to have some audience questions here, so if you want to start lining up, we'll get to those in just a few minutes. Richard, do you have a favorite moment?
Well, I have two favorite impressions. The first thing that smashed my mind was how incredibly courageous and capable the writers and Carlton were to get away from the books, because when I read the books, I said to myself, oh yeah, this is great material, and in a certain sense, the inconscience in me would say, we go by the books, and more or less, but it takes guts to go away from such a good material and then to go into the open field and to develop a completely new storyline. And still be truthful to the original story, and that kept me in a kind of creative curiosity all the 4 years, and it was just so exciting. I felt like a privileged spectator, which actually we were, because we wouldn't know what would happen because we wouldn't go by the books. So we would know what happens to our characters once we got an episode, a script of an episode. So this developed little by little, and this kept the creation and the excitement very high. And in terms of real scenes, I guess for me it's the first scene I shot with Strakin. It's also the first day I met David, and it was the prison scene. I think it was episode 2, there was nothing else than sitting one in front of another and separated by a window. And so it was all just watching and talking through the eyes of the other. It was actually very intense. And so this would be the first scene I have done as a Strakin-Eichhorst confrontation. And then definitely the last confrontation, which you haven't seen yet. So this is a nice arc for me to tell the story.
Okay. Max, what about you? You have a favorite moment?
Well, I think Zach has really kind of been to a lot of places and throughout all the groups. So it's kind of hard for me to really pick one moment. But I mean, I really like it when you get to bond with a specific person in a scene. And I think it's really cool when, maybe like you're on, your character's on a different track, or you don't agree with someone, but then you can have that scene that kind of slows it down. It's kind of a happy scene. So I think, it's kind of hard to pick, but there's a lot of different scenes that I like.
That's great. Audience questions? Let's see if anybody has questions for our group.
Hi, my name is Robert. My question is for the writing portion, because we've seen the Strigoi have a plan. You can see that they target certain people with like certain attributes about the personality to make like second hands or whomever. My question is are we going to probably see in this final season, hey, where do they come from? What exactly makes them tick to a point where, because it seems like literally you've got just each individual person has a reason for what they do. Even the masters who are trying to fight the master have almost identical traits for their second hands.
I mean, it's one of those things where the last thing you want to do is sort of stop the show and explain what's going on. So this is a great opportunity to explain. But yeah, I mean, part of that is I think when someone is turned, there's still a little bit of themselves that carries forward. Now there are certain Strigoi who are turned and then are elevated by the master, and then part of their subconscious, part of their self, is still there in that personage. Specifically, we're not going to. I mean, I think we've kind of covered where they come from. I mean, it's a virus that spreads, and so these people will become hosts of the strain. So there's just there's different sort of strata of Strigoi, and is there any better answer than that? No, good. Thanks for the question.
Might we see more flashbacks though for any of the character stuff, because you guys have done that throughout the series?
Yeah, there's flashbacks all throughout the season, and including the finale. There's a flashback.
Next question.
Hi guys, my name is Courtney, and my question is for Richard. Eichhorst is one of my favorite villains in any TV show. So I guess my question is, he's been really wanting the Master's approval and kind of just more attention from him. And since he's not getting it, do you believe that he might lash out against the Master, or do you think that he'll remain faithful in hopes that he'll eventually notice that he has what it takes?
Well, I would say my first reaction would be he's desperately faithful. even though there is a potential in him where he could turn even on the master if he considers that the master is not faithful to the dogma he established, you know. So there is for sure something really interesting that's developed in the last season where Eichhorst is not openly questioning the master, but let's say where frictions are developed between the master and Eichhorst. That's for sure.
Thank you. Next question?
Hello, my name is Joshua, and I have a question for Max. So, Max, what was your audition for The Straight like?
Let's see. My first audition, I'm pretty sure, I think Carlton was there, and the audition process was pretty cool. They just kind of let me take my time with the audition and, do what I wanted to do. And I think that's really cool about the audition and kind of on set, because they let you really do whatever you want to do to, make the character real.
Next question?
Hi, my name is Kylie. Do you ever get scared of the vampires on set?
Oh, Kevin, you should explain what you do on set in terms of scaring people.
I think people are probably more afraid of me on set, to tell you the truth. Well, here's one example. We were shooting at this one place called the Hearn, which is already kind of reportedly a haunted place to be shooting anyways. And I was telling, I love Miguel, but this is funny. I kept telling Miguel about these wolves that lived on the outskirts of the building. They were like wolf-coyote hybrids, and they were way more vicious and smarter than the wolves or the coyotes on their own, so that he should be very careful. And then he went to the bathroom, and I waited for him. And then I started videotaping on my camera, and I followed him, and I snuck up behind him, and I said, so the fear was more, what is Kevin going to be up to? The vampires on set, they have this really amazing textured, almost kind of beautiful makeup done to them. I know they're horrific, but you can't help but admire the work that's put into them. But when you're sitting down and having lunch with them and talking about normal familial stuff, they stop being as scary as maybe they are to you.
Thank you. Next question?
Hi, my name is Alex, and well, my question is, what is like the most interesting decisions they had to make for the adaptations, the things they have to left out from the books and what they had to add to the show?
Well, so Chuck and Guillermo wrote the books, and really from very early on, once you make a television show, again, as I was saying before, it's kind of this organic entity, and you start to see these characters come to life, and you see what storylines work, and you kind of see what relationships develop, and then that feedback informs how we continue to write the show. So with Chuck and Guillermo collaborating, myself along with the other writers, we followed those sort of things in the show that we thought were exciting and had great potential and interested us as writers. So we viewed the television show as its own entity. We never thought our obligation was to follow the books closely. The books became kind of just a reference and sort of pointed out certain landmarks we might want to go visit, but we gave ourselves a lot of latitude to just discover what the story should be as we talked about it in the writer's room.
I would say specifically there's one character who's not in the books at all, who's on stage, and that's Dutch. I mean, Ruda, bringing her character in really energized the show. she's been great for us, and that's an easy example of something that we just felt that there were a number of different reasons, but it was great to introduce a new character to that world and watch what happened. Thanks.
I don't know what this train would look like without Dutch.
Exactly.
Without Ruda, right? We have time for a few more questions, guys. If you want to step up to the microphone, I want to know. Also, final season is a good time to maybe see some past characters again, if at all possible, in this world. Might we see anybody that we haven't seen in a while pop back up?
Well, we already saw in episode in 401, we saw Zach's mom came back in sort of a pseudo flashback. I don't know. I don't want to give too much, but no, the last thing we wanted to do was sort of, take a trip down memory lane. We love doing flashbacks on the show. It's one of them. There's so much fun to write and there's so much fun to watch, but we want to make sure that it's informing the action and the characters and kicking everything forward. So nothing springs to mind.
We introduced some new characters this season that I think are great, and they kind of help inform the journey of our existing characters, and I think you'll really enjoy their stories as the season goes forward.
And I've talked to Corey about this, but the writers, there's a luxury in knowing the end is coming. Is there a luxury for the actor knowing the show is coming to an end and your character is going to come to a conclusion, as opposed to not knowing, if it would live year after year? Does anybody have any perspective on that? Is there a luxury as an actor?
It's just really nice to tell a story from beginning to end, because sometimes shows can go on and they get cancelled mid-season, or you don't know when they're going, so you're developing a character and you're not knowing where you're taking it to. So to know that you all have a conclusion, it's really nice to build to that point and to know that you've kind of finished your work. And I think that's what was brilliant about having just 4 seasons on the show, is that it's a complete story. And you can go back and you can watch them again and see different bits that were planted early on that sort of come to fruition later on. And for me, that was just a really nice thing to tie at the end and see the journey from Dutch right at the beginning, when she was kind of a bit of a spoiled idiot and ends up being, hopefully redeeming herself somewhat.
Did that affect anybody else in just approaching this last season?
I think there's no reason to hold anything back. I think when you have a character who has to live indefinitely, and you can go on for 10 seasons, you hold back on the throttle a little bit, because you don't want to have to top yourself later. And knowing that now we've got 8 episodes left, now we've got 7 episodes left. It gives you license to let the stakes be really high. And in a show like this, where the subject matter is about the survival of the human race, the stakes should be high.
Okay, well, you guys can watch the rest of the final season of The Strain every Sunday night on FX. Thanks for being here. Thanks, everybody.
And for more, click left to watch part 1 of The Strain panel, or click right to watch part 2.